What's good, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in, and welcome to the Writer's Room, where we do reviews, recaps, and reactions. It's a lot of reopenings. Okay, let me not be childish. But today we are going to be recapping Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, Episode 7, No Love Lost. We start off with our girl, Jukebox. She is going to visit Nicole, which we know is her deceased lover. I do hate seeing Jukebox in this mental state because ever since Nicole passed on, she has been in this self-sabotage mode, and every time she comes on, it is just something so tense and dramatic about it. And I'm like, come on, girl, let's shake it off. But we see here that she is visiting Nicole's gravesite, and her father pulls up. This does startle Jukebox because she's like, hold up. Where is your insane wife? You know, the Karen that's lurking around, because last time she was accusing me of this. And you know, Jukebox already feels so heavy with guilt for even having that, you know, blue cap on her the night that Nicole took the blue cap. So this is already like a 180 moment for her, just seeing the dad and seeing him in mourning, but letting her know that he's actually divorcing his insane wife. So I really do love to hear that. And he basically goes on about how Nicole loved Jukebox so much, and that he would, whatever Jukebox needs from him, he's willing to supply that, because at the end of the day, this is the closest thing that your daughter got to pure happiness. And so he's embracing that. And I really do love the exchange that goes on between them. And he does mention the tape that Nicole and Jukebox had when they were singing to each other, because of course it was just so lovey-dovey and cute. And we know that Jukebox went into that room, like, or shall I say broke into her room and stole the tape. So yeah, we know that Jukebox is probably going to return to this tape later to give it to him, but we'll get to that. Next, we briefly transition over to our boy Lou, and we have Caesar there, and they are doing the do inside of this music studio. I mean, they have a strange dynamic, a strange relationship that I'm kind of interested in seeing grow out and play out. So yeah, but in the midst of them having their moment, we are interrupted by two gang members of like a Jamaican or Caribbean gang. And they're basically saying, hey, where's Crown at? I don't care about none of that rah crap that you're saying. We need Crown because he actually owes us $50,000, and he put the studio up as collateral. So if he is not here to give us the $50,000, then this is now our studio. Lou can't catch a break. So continuing on, we briefly touch on this completely inappropriate relationship. But before we do that, we have Kanan playing a game. And of course, in true Kanan fashion, he's just upset and I guess bored and wants to F up some more things. So he looks at his gun and remembers, okay, this was not my gun. This was actually Miss Palomar, who is my girlfriend, you know, Corinne's mother. So let me go ahead and give her this gun back. But when he goes to visit Palomar and to give her the gun, she actually, you know, throws herself at him. And he's like, wait a minute. Like, you are my girlfriend's mother, in his voice. And she doesn't care. I mean, this is just completely shiesty, but whew, Lord, Rock, please take care of it. Continuing on, we briefly touch on Marvin. He is meeting up with the brother of the boss in New Jersey. Now, Marvin has been watching Tony. We know that Tony is from the first season. She is actually the woman that he was sleeping with that worked at the club that Symphony worked at. Okay, it's a lot. Or she owned the club. But basically, she had charges pressed against him, and then she ended up dropping him and dropping the charges. But he had to take anger management, which I thought was going so well. But from this conversation, it appears as though he is hiring this man to basically take care of the dirty work, because the last time that he tried to go up to the community that Tony was now residing in, he sticks out like a sore thumb. So he wanted to get someone of lighter skin complexion to go out there, because when you go out there, it's just going to be a normal day for you. So we'll see how that turns out. We'll get to that later on in this episode. Now we go to Rock and we have her sitting down and having dinner again with Cartier. Now Rock is incredibly observant and attentive when she wants to be, and I think she is so busy trying to climb her way to the top of the chain and, you know, basically be the queen pin of that area. And to be honest, Cartier should be afraid of a woman like this, because she's very determined, and you can see that she is eyeballing everything. She doesn't say much. All she does is sit there and observe. And we see that Cartier's friend, quotation marks, Boris, or shall I say colleague, Boris comes over, and we see that there is tension between Boris and Cartier. Boris actually gets his product from Cartier, and we can see that Boris ain't really like messing with Cartier like that. He's spending his own money, but Cartier is constantly trying to belittle him and act like, oh, I'm giving you all this money, I must be making you too much money. Basically insinuating that he's probably going to raise the price on the product so that he can keep Boris contained. Now Rock does peep this, and you can see how she actually responds to that later on in the episode. Transitioning over to our girl Jukebox, we see that she is at Bible study with her mother, Kenya, and she is going through it. I have no idea why this preacher is, being so careless and callous, but he is going in, okay? And we know that this is the 90s. And so we see that the wheels are turning in Laverne, aka Jukebox's head. She really wants to be in good with Kenya. This is her last hope in her head. She's over her dad. She's over Marvin, but she wants to be in good with Kenya, her mother. And you can see that she low-key looks over to the side because the preacher is going on and on about homosexuality in other words. But we see that she looks over to the side and sees the guy that has been trying to holler at her for the past few episodes. And she kind of looks like she's about to entertain him for the sake of wanting to appear heterosexual in front of her mother, but also actually try to be a part of that world. And so I really don't know how this is going to end, but it doesn't seem like it's going to end well for her. Next, we transition over to Marvin. He's going to the trap house and realizes that there is a long line, and he's trying to figure out what is going on. And we see Lou, once he goes inside, Lou is counting up the money. I mean, not even counting it. He's just taking all of the money that is being made from the product and dipping out with it. And of course, this concerns Marvin because you are barely here in the first place, but then you're taking money, and of course, they need to pay back this money. So Marvin is just trying to figure out what's up. So we go on briefly, we touch on Jukebox, and this is after she gets out of Bible study with her mom, Kenya, and we see that she is going to take this liking. She takes a liking to this kid that keeps trying to holler at her, but I think it's more so friendship level for her, but she's going to give it a chance and go on a date with him. And you can see that Kenya is so proud. Okay, Kenya is like, oh my gosh, because I'm sure she was like, my daughter may be gay. I'm sure that is in her head, but she's so proud to see her daughter giving out her number and being girly, quote unquote. Meanwhile, over at the precinct, we have Detective Howard. Of course, he's getting back into the swing of things, and he's being nosy per usual, but he inquires because he sees Scrap's mother is back at the precinct, and basically he is told that she does not believe that Scrap, unalived himself, and so she demands to know what happened and who may have told on her. And he is told at this moment that Scrap was never the CI. Do you remember from episode 2 of this season that he told Rock that Scrap was a CI? And ultimately, that piece of information that he gave to Rock, unsolicited might I add, caused the death of Scrap. And so he is looking really dumb right now, just realizing that he got the wrong person as the CI, and that Rock, it probably has something to do with him being taken out. Now we get into your girl Jukebox, and she's cooking up some good tomato soup. She probably has a grilled cheese on the side. Ooh, that tastes good. But we see Marvin comes in and she gives the slyest of eyes toward him because she still feels away and she's feeling a little bit invincible and on top of the world because her mother seemingly wants her to be in her life. Now, Marvin, he attempts to walk away, but then opens the door back and is like, you know what? Why didn't you tell me about your mom? She lets him know, I was never going to tell you, and who told you? He said, it doesn't matter. All you need to know is that Kenya is no good. Kenya left me and you here. And at the very least, I should be better than Kenya because I at least stayed around to raise you as my own because you are my child and I took care of you and I loved you. And it may not be perfect, but I did. So we see that, you know, because of this, she was already thinking about going on this date with homeboy, but now she's actually going to attempt it. And I think this conversation drove her into doing that. Now, going back to Rock, we see that she actually goes up to the Pierre Hotel where Boris is staying at, and she finds him as he is checking out. And I think that Rock did put it in Cartier's head when she was at the dinner with him that he should punish Boris because he was being insubordinate. And I think this really helped her out because it was fresh on his mind that I have to get from under Cartier's thumb because he thinks he owns me. And so she does let Boris know, I've got cheaper product for you without the hassle of being under Cartier's thumb and being his lapdog, basically. And of course, he's taking a liking to it, but he's like, I don't know you. And so she just puts it in his ear that, hey, you should go ahead and do business with me because I plan on expanding and I'm this and I'm that. I mean, Rock is smooth with it. She's basically the girl version of Cartier. So, of course, he considers this opportunity and we'll get back to it later on in the episode of what he decides to do about that. Now, we transition over to Symphony and Kanan, and of course, they have this really adorable, like, father-son type of bond. I think that this is the real father figure in Kanan's life, but that's nonetheless. We just see that Symphony tells Kanan that he won't be coming over or having dinners and lunch with him anymore because he is actually taking a job that is outside of the town. And yeah, and Kanan's a smart guy, so he's like, you want me to tell my mom? Like, no, you're gonna have to tell her. And of course, Symphony acts like he doesn't want to see Rock, but we all know that Symphony is dying to see Rock again, and hopefully that she'll turn around and want to be with him and be his forever home. But we see that when they step outside, you know, they're dapping up, getting ready to leave. Detective Burke is nosy as hell. She is in the car watching Symphony like a hawk. I think she's watching Kanan like a hawk, and Symphony just happened to be there. When we go back to Rock, we see that she is at that beautiful big house in that beautiful neighborhood, and she's talking to the real estate agent, and the real estate agent just lets her know that HOA is very picky and choosy about who they allow to move into this neighborhood, that although the sellers were thrilled and accepted her offer, you know, at the drop of a dime, they want to ensure that she has, you know, valid proof of income. And so this is where Lou comes into the picture. Now Rock is in need of Lou in this record label because she lets this lady know that she owns a record label. I don't know how this is going to swing because it doesn't even seem like Lou owns the record label. Crown doesn't own it because Crown is gone. It seems like the Jamaicans own it, but we're going to see what ends up happening because Rock is going to be in a whirlwind of trouble when we find out what Cartier does. Now, when we go back to Symphony in the car, we see that he is being stopped by Detective Burke. And Detective Burke has no leverage. She has nothing to hold over Symphony besides, hey, you were stopped here a few months ago when a cop was shot, and I want to know why. Who in their right mind is actually going to remember? I mean, I would like to know who's going to remember that. But hey, you know, Detective Burke is really on her work right now. She's trying to investigate, and Symphony holds his cool. He's holding water. He's not letting her know anything besides the fact that, matter of fact, he actually spun the whole Kanan story and said that, you know, Kanan was his student, which Kanan was, but he says, you know, his relationship with Rock pretty much extends a little bit past that, just because Kanan was such a good kid, but troubled. And so Detective Burke is on one right now, trying to figure out who is connected to Kanan and who is his father. Moving along, we do go back to Jukebox very, very briefly. And remember, Nicole's father did ask about that tape that her and Nicole had made. And we know that she could not fess up and say that she has that tape, because then she would actually have to, admit that she broke into the house and broke into Nicole's room. But she is going to get that tape repaired so that she can actually give it to Nicole's father. She's not going to actually give it to him, handing it to him, but she is going to leave it at his doorstep later on in the episode. Now, we have our boy Unique. He is he's always fly, dapper, and dripped down when we see him on the scenes, and he's always 2 steps ahead of everybody. And we see that World is basically like, okay, why are we here? Like, this is boring. When are we gonna get another building? World is ready to build up in New Jersey, and he is just so doe-eyed, and he has no idea. He's oblivious to the whole thing that Rock has planned for both him and Unique. Unique is not stupid. Unique understands that he is a problem, and so is World, and that is why she put them both within New Jersey, because she plans on doing something with them, but until then, just get them out of her way. So we do see that Marco pulls up to get the earnings for the day, and in this, he does still inquire about Marvin, and he wants to know, hey, is Marvin good for it? He's, trying to get into business with me. I'm not going to go too much deep into it, but I just need to know if he's good for it. Unique already knows that these 2 F-ups are not good together, but he's just going to sit back and watch everything spill over. But he lets him know that, yes, Marvin has never missed out on a payment. And from the episode, we all know how this turned out. It turned out exactly the way Unique had, assumed it would, or at least he insinuated to us. We assumed from Unique's expression when he first asked about it, it turns out bad. So, moving along, we see that Detective Burke is at the precinct, and she is getting more and more information and intel on Detective Howard. Now, nobody likes a snoop. Nobody likes to be investigated, especially within the police force. They hate internal affairs, and that's exactly how Detective Burke is acting. And another cop does hear this, so I know this is going to go down in the next coming episodes. Burke may not be here at this police department for too much longer. Now, moving along, we get back to Rock. She goes to meet up with her connect and Juliana, and Juliana is giving us like royal luxury. She's giving us, okay, I didn't know that she had it in her, but she is talking big mess. She's already snitched on Rock to her cousin about how Rock is still working with the man that kidnapped her and held her hostage and stole the drugs. She basically told everything, and so he's trying to inquire on how he can still trust Rock and what she has planned on in the future. And she lets him know that I've got plans to move everywhere. Maryland, New Jersey is where we're starting off at. Like, don't you worry. And we see that there's a man lurking in the background. Juliana actually peeps game on this man, and he does end up leaving and walking out. But we see that he is actually one of the guys that works for Boris. Boris wanted to investigate, and he's still investigating who Rock is and does she have the clout and the product that she says that she has. So he's interested. He wants to know about everybody in that room, in that diner that was talking to Rock. Now, going back to our boy Lou, who seems to not catch a break. I mean, ever since episode 1 of this season, Lou has not been able to see happiness. And I guess for good reason. I mean, he's a little cuckoo. But Lou ends up getting jumped because the Caribbeans want their money. They want their money, and either he's going to give it to them, but since Crown is not around, they'll send a message by, way of jumping Lou. Going back to our favorite antagonist of the show, we have Rock doing her laundry, doing just normal everyday things. And you really do see Rock's humanity in this episode because, of course, so many things are happening. But we see that she sees that Symphony is at her door, and we know that Symphony broke up with her. I don't know why, but I feel like Symphony is going to be a casualty by the end of this season. But I'll tell you why at the end of this recap. But we see that Symphony is there, and we know that Symphony is basically there to tell Rock that he is leaving. He has taken a job outside of town, and he is leaving, and he's kind of giving her one last chance to really profess her love to him. And so Symphony does invite her outside to talk and basically tell her that he's moving away and good luck with everything. But before he leaves, he does inform her that a cop has stopped him and asked him about her and Kanan. And we know that Rock, as soon as she hears that you have any affiliation or association with a cop, she is ready to go ahead and cut you loose, just like a loose end. I mean, she did that with Scrap without really finding out any of the true details. And we know that's how Rock operates. So in this, we see that there's a switch in her facial expressions that's like, hold up, you talk to who? I mean, what'd you say? I mean, nothing is it nothing? Because my nothing is like you snitched on me, basically, accusing Symphony of saying something. And Symphony just looks at her like, I have been trying to literally marry you. And so for that reason, I'm out. He basically did her like Shark Tank, okay, and dipped out. But you know, Rock is still thinking about that. Now, moving along, we do see that Marvin has finally graduated his anger management classes, so he is done with that. He can put that into the past, and I feel like I'm the soothsayer or some type of psychic. No, it was very predictable that these two were going to be feeling each other. So we do see that Renee is feeling Marvin a lot more than he, thought. But I do love that they touched on this, and it felt like a really cool improvised scene between him and old Joe. We know that Joe had some words to say to Marvin earlier in the season because he was also suffering with his anger management as well. But we see that Renee goes to Marvin and basically shoots her shot at him, but in a like super cute and classy way, like, hey, here's my card, I would love to hear from you. I mean, that is the way to ask someone out if you're going to do it low key. Now we transition over to the most inappropriate part of the episode, which is our girl Palomar and Kanan. As you can see, they are in bed, they're canoodling, and she seems to have some type of obsession with age. And of course, she does look very, very good, like to be, having a 13-year-old, but like a 15-year-old. She looks awesome. You can see that she's a little obsessive over her age, and she's saying things to Kanan like, you're the perfect age. I mean, it sounds like he's a ripe banana to her, but hey, whatever. We see Corinne actually bust in the room, and she throws a milk carton at her mom, and she's like, you whore. And this seems like maybe this has been attempted before, and no one ever fell for it until Kanan came. But we see that this triggers Corinne, because later on in the episode, she does go to Rock to try to get Rock to do something about her mother. Now, we do know that there was a sneak peek of next week's episode with a gun pointed to Palomar's face. So I'm going to assume that's Rock letting her know what's up. Nonetheless, being called by her daughter did not faze Palomar at all, and it clearly did not faze Kanan. Guys, I want you to put in the comments down below, do you think that Palomar or Corinne is actually Sean's mother? Because we know at some point Sean should be born or birthed within Power Book raising Kanan. And so I am interested to see who is actually going to be Sean's mother. Now, we do go along and we see that Lou has gone to Cartier for the help that he needs for the studio. He really does not want Rock's hand in this, which it would have been perfect because Rock does need the studio for her income and everything. So I think she would have been a lot more lenient on Lou, but he didn't know that. But he ended up soliciting Cartier's help, and Cartier is basically telling him that, hey, I want part of Crown's ownership within the company. And Lou thought he was about to get off scot-free. He thought all he had to do was pay Cartier back. Cartier is a businessman. He does not want just money. He wants money constantly coming in. So you see that Cartier made the deal with him that give me partnership, make me a silent partner, and I will give you the money that you need. You don't have to worry about interest and all of that. I just want to be a silent partner. This obviously is bothering Lou because he's back in the same predicament that he was with Crown. Next, we briefly go on to Jukebox, and of course, she went out on that date to see the movie with the guy from church that has been trying to holler at her, and they do seem really cute together. I'm not gonna lie, I do like them together. Now, I don't know if Jukebox is feeling it, because for a second when he kissed her, it seemed like, he was feeling it just a little bit, or I'm sorry, she was feeling it just a little bit, but you can tell that she's kind of bothered as well. This is her sexuality. She is not heterosexual, but she is actually giving it a true chance in order to try to win over her mom, Kenya. Next, we transition over to Marco. He is in the car and he is fulfilling the job that Marvin has asked him to do for the extra money. The $5,000, I believe, was the price that was on Tony's head. Now, why he solicited this dumb guy? Because we know that, he was a part of the whole assassination of Rock at the campfire. So I'm confused why we brought him back. He's not smart. But Marco decided to enlist him, and it's probably because he's not smart. But we see that they bust in after, Tony gets it in with her her dentist of a fiance, and she is gunned down. Tony is taken out quickly, and it's clear that she was the target here, but they did not realize that the dentist was still there, and he ended up coming out and pushing them, and they're fighting over the gun, him and Marco actually relied on this dumb guy to take out this dentist. It was just a mess, and what ended up happening was what we thought would happen. It was the dumb guy ended up taking out Marco. And this is the boss's brother. This is not going to go well. The boss, once he finds this out, because of course there was a shootout between I need to give him a name, but dumb guy versus the dentist. There was a shootout, and the dumb guy did end up getting shot, but he's still alive at this point. He's going to have to actually go to the hospital. He's going to, at some point, tell the boss what happened to his brother and realize that Marvin was the one that set this up. Now, remember, Unique actually knew about this. So maybe the dumb guy doesn't know who set this up, but Unique does have a great idea, and this could be his way of taking out Rock once and for all. And speaking of Rock does go up to meet with Detective Howard and finds out the hard way that Detective Howard had no idea who the true CI was when he told her that Scrap was the CI. He says that Scrap's mom does not believe that Scrap was the one who took himself out and that someone found out. And Rock is looking at him like, excuse me, you said that Scrap was the CI. And Detective Howard is just like, I made a mistake. What's gonna happen with, why did he even bring this up? Either way it goes, Rock is sitting there looking stupid because she listened to Detective Howard. At this point, she might as well have just clocked Detective Howard out. He was absolutely no help to her in her plight in this moment, and he actually made things worse for her. Now, speaking of Detective Howard, as he was talking about Detective Burke is still investigating him, and it took her girlfriend to actually tell her that you are going to be the most hated within this precinct because nobody likes internal affairs, and you are actually investigating your partner. You need to get it together. Burke clearly is not going to listen. Now we briefly turn to Jukebox, who takes over that tape that she got repaired of her and Nicole singing, and she goes to drop it off at Nicole's father's house. But when she goes to drop it off, she sees a familiar face, and who is it? It's nobody other than Detective Howard. She's wondering what's going on. Now, I believe that this is actually going to cause a rift because she was just starting to really latch on to Nicole's father. They both were suffering the same loss, and I think she was starting to build up some form of trust for him. But now I think that she believes that he is actually snitching on her or trying to find more dirt on her, because obviously the whole family, Rock and the whole family, are delusional and they're paranoid, within good reason, of course. But we see that Detective Howard is only there to discuss what Burke has been asking in regards to Jukebox and the family of Rock. Now, we briefly go ahead and touch on SZA. She's in the studio. She's sounding good. I mean, the song's a bop. And we see that Lou is not satisfied, but he can't say anything. Why? Because Cartier, his now silent partner, is all here for the goodness. SZA does see the tension between them, but Cartier is not stopping it. And of course, he has partnership. He has ownership within this company. So Lou is back pretty much depending on someone else's word in order to do what he wants to do within the studio. So I think later on, this is going to backfire on Cartier, and Lou is probably going to have to take out Cartier in order to actually do the company and run the company the way that he wants to run it. We go back to the hospital where Tony's future husband, is now widow, is there, and he's just telling the police all that he knows. But he does tell the police that Tony was clearly targeted, and so now they have to figure out what's going on. And of course, this is going to trace back to Marvin because Tony pressed charges on him way before she ended up getting engaged to the dentist. So the dentist really has no motive here to take out Tony. He was about to get married to her, and the last time that Tony had a run-in with the police, it was because of Marvin, and that was months earlier. So do transition back to Rock, and she is looking crazy, you guys. I mean, at this point, she doesn't know who to trust. Detective Howard has lied to her about her most loyal soldier, which was Scrap, and she ended up taking him out, listening to the word of Detective Howard. And I was so happy because Symphony is getting ready to leave, and he has done nothing on this show but show Rock love and support and just really hold her down. And I believe that she finally understood and listened to her gut and said, okay, this man has always been there for me. He's always been up for me. Why would he go against me now? And of course, him leaving doesn't sound good either, because we know that when you leave for a certain amount of time, you're probably working with the police. But she ends up not taking out Symphony as he's putting his stuff up. So I'm going to assume this is probably going to be the last time, truly, this season that we see Symphony. So what do you guys think about this? I mean, Rock has been going through it episode by episode. We knew that the way that she ended last season, that Rock was going to be in for a treat this season because she has just been running her business into the ground. And we know that Marvin has also been doing things a little backwards just when he was starting to get his life on track and starting to work on himself emotionally and mentally and kind of get a new girlfriend. So what do you guys think of everything that happened within this episode? It was hyped up. It started all kind of slow and then it just kept going and going. Do you think that Kanan is now with one of his baby mothers? I don't know. I'm here for the show. So put in the comments down below what was your favorite part about this episode. So thank you so much for tuning into the Writers Room, and I'll see you next time.